Hey, good morning. Hi, is it Tito? Is that how you pronounce your name? Okay, good. Hey, just go ahead and unmute and say hi, just to make sure I know I can hear you. Oh, there
Yes,
you are. Good.
there I am. And yeah, it's short for Margarita.
Okay,
Yeah,
I like that. Very nice. Oh, so welcome. How are you this morning?
good, good. Good to be here. Looking forward to this.
Thank you.
I'll
Me
go
too.
on to mute now because that's sort of important.
Okay, no problem. I just want to make sure I can hear you. Hey, Margaret.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Good to see you again. How are you doing this morning?
Good, really good.
All right.
Looking forward to this.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, hey, Cynthia. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for asking. Welcome. Let's see. Sue, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Okay. Welcome. Good morning. Doing great.
Joanne, good morning.
Oh, is that Joanne? Hi, good morning. Somebody's in is, let's see, SRAU4. I can rename you if you would like me to give you put your first name out there. And anybody that's not showing their video, if you would like to, it's down in the bottom left where it says start video. It's not required, but it's always nice to see everybody's face.
Integrate camera. Can you see me?
Not yet. I can hear you now.
Okay.
And
don't
what's
know
your
why.
name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie. Okay, Stephanie Raw. Okay. So
Stephanie, your camera is definitely on, but it looks like something may be covering it.
Huh. There's nothing in front of it, so that's weird. Let me see about my settings.
Could it possibly be the case to your laptop?
Move, Tim.
It is not.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll message you in the chat if you can access it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
it's definitely on, but it's just not showing anything.
That is
Oh.
weird. I'm still working on it.
Technology is always the fun part, right?
Yes, it is. Always, always.
Hi, Cynthia. Glad to see you coming in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's where we usually take the first 4 to 5 minutes of the class just to give a chance for people to get their technology working and meet and greet everybody. And a lot of people are coming from another class, so we'll give them a couple of minutes to run, get a glass of water and get back in the next class if they're doing back-to-back classes. But we are 4 minutes in. I think I've heard everyone's voice. That's the main thing I want to make sure is that I can hear everyone. So when you have questions and comments, I can hear you. So that is good. So I'm going to get started with some of the housekeeping issues while we give it a couple more minutes in case a few more people come in. And then we'll jump into the agenda. So let me go ahead and share my screen and get pictures organized. I'm moving your pictures over to my other monitor so I can see you without taking up space on my screen. There you all are. Okay, all right. Looks like Edmund is coming in. Ed, are you here? Nope, this audio is still connecting. Okay, I will be muting everybody throughout the class. I'm going to start with the mics open since we got a fairly small group, but I'll probably have to mute before the class is over. Whenever I start to hear any background noise, I'll go ahead and mute. So again, just be sure to check your microphone before you ask a question and see if your unmuted. If you're not, go ahead and unmute and then ask your question. You don't need to raise your hand or anything, just unmute and ask away. And I will open the chat as well in case anyone's having trouble with their microphone. I think I've heard from everybody except Ed. Hi, Ed, how are you? And okay, so the chat is now open. We got a couple other people coming in still, but we're going to go ahead and get started because we've got a lot to cover today. So I want to officially go ahead and open the class on Excel Intermediate and welcome you to the class. Glad that you came and hope you enjoy the course. My name is Wade Yarbrough, and I'll be your guide for this class. Very briefly about me, I'm from a small town in Tennessee called Mason. We're just outside of Memphis, Tennessee. I have a degree in psychology and have taught psychology at the university and community college levels, but also my other passion is technology. And so I installed and supported healthcare information systems, primarily hospital information systems, and trained users how to use those systems. So I've done a lot of adult training in my life, but what I really am enjoying about Get Set Up is that the people I'm training want to be in the class. You've all signed up for the class, much different than teaching classes where people are told to attend the class instead of are there by their own choice. And that's what we really try to do at Get Set Up, is to create an environment where you can take classes that you want to take, information you want to learn, but learn with other people. So you can hear other people's questions and even interact with each other as well as with the guide. So I think that's part of the magic of our classes. The session is being recorded, as all of our sessions are, and you can request a copy of that. All you have to do is send an email to help@getsetup.io. I'm going to put that in the chat in case you don't have it already in your email. Oops, if I could type it right. There we go. So go ahead and put that in your email contacts. There's lots of ways you'll use that email, but one is to request a copy of the recording. Just be sure to include the name of the class and the date you attended it. We're also live streaming this class and a lot of our classes. So anyone that's joining us via live stream, we want to welcome you to the class as well. Thank you so much for joining us. But want to encourage you to go ahead and register for classes so that you can actually ask questions of the guide and interact with the other participants and get that whole benefit of the Get Set Up experience. And finally, Get Set Up is not paid to promote any of the products or vendors that we train on. We're purely trainers. Our revenue comes from our training activities. So let's talk about the agenda for today. This is a follow-on to the Excel Basics class. I don't know if you've taken the Excel Basics class, I'll make some references to that. If you already have some Excel background, then you may not need to take that class, but there may be a few things that you may learn in that one. So if you haven't taken the Basics class, that's one to maybe look at. But we're going to pick up where that class left off. We're going to go into using different types of functions. We'll review some of the math functions, but we'll talk about logic functions and text functions. We'll talk about dealing with large spreadsheets, sorting, filtering, managing large spreadsheets. We'll talk about creating graphs and charts in your spreadsheets and how to print spreadsheets. So a lot to cover today. So I'm going to narrow this down and go ahead and bring up Excel. And again, if you have any, in the other class, we do talk a lot about what Excel is and how to get access to it. I'm hoping everybody in this class already has access to Excel. So we're going to just go ahead and launch Excel here. And I've created a spreadsheet for this class. So I'm going to go ahead and open that spreadsheet, and we are going to get right into the meat of the matter here. I'm going to start with something called calculators. I do a lot of calculators. I think they're handy. So, and basically a calculator is where you take some application that you do frequently. And in this case, the scenario is it's a pizza party. Maybe you're part of a church or a not-for-profit that has a monthly pizza party, and you're responsible for ordering the pizza and paying for it. So you need to have some way to figure out how many pizzas you need and what it's going to cost you. And that's basically what a calculator is. So instead of doing it on a regular calculator every time from scratch, you can let Excel help you. You can then save this so you've got it for the next time. But basically the way the calculators work is you put your assumptions up at the top, and then you put the calculations that you need to get to what you're looking for, which is what the cost is going to be. So let's go over how this works, and I'll kind of review a little bit in case you weren't in the other class or if you just need a refresher. So we're going to start with some formulas. Formulas always start with an equal sign. So the first thing we want to do is enter a formula for the total number of slices of pizza we're going to be needing. So here are the assumptions: how many guests, how many slices of pizza each guest is going to eat, how many slices per pie, the cost, and the tip. So let's say the total number we're going to need is, and I'll put equal. It's going to be equal to the number of guests multiplied by the number of slices we think each person is going to eat. So 15 people, 2 per person, 30 slices of pizza. Number of pies. So we need to know how many actually pizzas do we need to order. So again, first enter the equal sign, letting Excel know it's going to be a formula. And so that's going to be the number of slices divided by the slices per pie. And that's 3.75 pizzas that we're going to need. But when we call the pizza guy, he says, I don't deliver 3/4 of a pie. So we need to round this to total pies. So to do that, we need to use a function. And the way to get to the functions, there's several ways to get to functions. There's a whole tab here with formulas and functions. But the ones that you use the most are available. I'm sliding this over so I can get to it. Up here under this icon, it's actually the sum icon. But if you click here, it'll show you the most commonly used ones, but it also gives you a way to get to more functions. So what we're trying to do is round. So I'll click more functions. And what you can do is type here basically what you're trying to do and see if there's a function that matches that. And there are several. There's round, round down, and round up. And if you click on each one of these, it tells you down here what that one does. And this sounds like what we want to do. Rounds a number up away from 0. So in this case, we want to always round up because we'd rather have some pizza left over than having people going home hungry. So we're going to select this function. Very simple function. It says, what number do you want to round? So we're going to just, you could type in the cell reference and say B12, but it's easier just to click on it. And then it wants to know how many decimal places do I want? And I want 0 decimal places. And when you're creating the functions, it actually tells you what the answer is going to be over here before you save it to make sure it's doing what you want it to do. And this looks good. 3.75 rounded to 0 decimal places is 4. So that's what I wanted to do. And again, I'm kind of walking through this a little quickly. Please unmute and let me know if I'm going too quickly. You need to see something again. So now we want to get the total cost. We know how many pizzas we've got. So we're going to say equals the 4 pizzas we need to buy multiplied by the price per pizza. 48 bucks. We're nice people, so we're going to give the delivery person a tip. So that's equal to the cost times the amount of the tip we're going to give. And so it's going to cost me $52.80 to have this pizza party. Everybody with me so far? And of course, the magic of Excel and using calculators on Excel is it's very easy to change as things change. So maybe we have some people call up and there's 3 more people that want to come now. So I can change that from 15 to 18. It recalcs. And maybe last time we ran out of pizza, so people are eating more than 2 slices. So maybe I want to say, let's assume 2.5 slices instead of 2. It's probably a better guesstimate. And it adjusts. The other thing you can do with this as well is if you want to kind of keep track of it, if in our scenario we said we're doing this every month, so we could actually just put the month up here. And then if I wanted to set it up for the next month, I can just do a copy and paste. Add a blank row. And so now I'm set up for the next month. And then maybe in the meantime, when I get this one, I find out that they've now gone up to $13.25 for a pizza instead of 12. So I can go ahead and make any assumption changes I want to make here. But then I go ahead and put in my my April one. So you kind of got a running tally of how much you spent each month and how many people came and those sorts of things. Questions about any of that? Okay, great. We'll keep going. We're going to go to a table. This is more typical of what you use in Excel. So here's a table. This is a fundraising event that that you're managing. We're managing. It has the names of the people, where they live, street, city, state, zip, and how much they've donated. And what we just found out from the people coordinating the event is they said they're going to give a free gift to anyone that donates over $50 as an incentive for people to give a little more money than they've been giving. So they want us to figure out who's going to get a free gift. So we've added a column for free gift. And what we're going to do is to use another function. I'm going to click into more functions. One nice thing about the more functions is that functions you've used most recently will pop up here. So typically what you're looking for is going to be in the list if it's here, because I've done this one recently. But if not, I could type if up here again like I did last time and see everything that starts with if. You can also go up into formulas, but to me, this one is easier to do. Most of the time, what I want is here. So I'm going to say, okay, let's do the if function. And pull this down so we can see it. So the way this works is you have a logic test. And then based on whether that test is true or false, if it's true, you do one thing. If it's false, you do something else. So here we're looking, our logic test is the donation greater than 50? And if it is, what we're going to want to do is just put the word gift in the cell. And I'm going to leave it like that to show you one other thing we need to do, but I'm going to say, okay. And that looks nice. It's got the word gift. It was indeed over 50. A couple of ways you can copy formulas and functions. You can just left click, drag, and then do a control D for down. And that works, except that's ugly because it's telling me false. So in order to clean that up, what I can do is I can come back into here and I could start over from scratch. Maybe I'll do that for this one, just to make it clear. You can also go in here and edit it, but that's a little tougher if you're new to this. So let's go back here, go back up to my functions, get that if function again, and rebuild it. So we're going to say if that's greater than 50, gift. What I can do is I can just say if it's false, instead of putting the word false there, just put a space. And to put a space, I just say quote, space, quote. So anytime it's text, it has to be inside double quotes. So double quote, space, double quote. Now it's going to put a space there. Same information, but it looks nicer. The other way I can copy this is by grabbing this bottom right corner and dragging it down. Does the same thing, but looks much nicer. And I'm going to center it to make it look even nicer. Okay, so now we figured out who is going to get a free gift. Questions before I move on? Okay, all right. So we've now had another scenario come up. Rich Texan has said that he's going to add $20 to anyone else from Texas that makes a pledge of any size.
Excuse me, wait.
Yeah.
I have a question or request. I'm somewhat visually impaired, so could you just, when you move the cursor, just move it a fraction slower
Okay, we
so
can
I
do
can
that.
keep up? Thank you.
Okay, yeah, and
All
I'll
right.
try and when I get to where I'm going, I'll try and circle a couple of times to make it clear where I am as well.
That would be great. Thanks.
Okay, all right. So so now we need to add that to our spreadsheet. So that's going to be another if function. So let's go back in here because I want to show you that the if function is extremely versatile. You can do lots of things with it. So let's get the if function up again. But this time what we want to say that if the donation came from Texas is my logic test. So I want to say if column E is equal to Texas, and again, I have to put it in double quotes. If it's true, then this amount is equal to the actual donation plus 20. If not, it's just the donation. So I'm still mixing text and numbers, but a little different mix. Everybody see how that's set up? So if the state's equal Texas, then total donation is the donation plus 20. If it's not Texas, it's just the donation. And again, you can see here what the answer is going to be. The answer is going to be 52, which is correct. So let's go ahead and save that and copy it down, and we can check and see if it's working. So here is one from Texas. It was 20. It's now 40. So that looks correct. Here's one that's not from Texas, 82. It's 82. So it looks like that function is working correctly. Okay. Questions? All right. So the next thing they want us to do, they have lots of things they're asking us to do. I've got a column for first name. I've got a column for last name. I don't have the full name anywhere, and they want to have the full name added to the spreadsheet. So I'm going to just select this column and do a right click and insert a new column where I can put that full name. Click full name. And I'm going to use, what I want to do is concatenate this column with this column. So I'm looking for a concatenate function. And there it is, concat. I can click that and see if it sounds like what I'm looking for. Concatenates a list or range of text strings. Sounds like what I want to do. I'll say okay. We'll see if that works. So again, what it's saying is, what's the first text you want to include? And what I want to do is include the text in this cell. So I'm just going to click here. And now what I want to have is the first name space last name. So I'm going to put double quote space double quote. So it doesn't jam these two up against each other. And then now I'm going to put the last name. And again, it shows me what I'm going to get down here. Sylvia space Armstrong. That looks correct. Enter. Copy it down. And you probably know this trick, but I'm chopping off part of the name. Put the cursor here between the two cells, double click, and it automatically widens to be wide enough to accommodate the largest cell. One other variation on that one, just to kind of make sure everybody's getting, let's say I show this to the people and say, well, that's great. Yeah, but we wanted the last name first and then the first name. So you got it in the wrong order. So, okay, we can do it again. So I'm going to delete that. Go back and grab my concatenate function again. Concatenate, okay. So they said they want the last name first. So I'm going to pick last name first. Now in this case, I want the last name, but then what I want to have is a comma space. right? And then the first name. Say, okay. Sylvia, comma, space, or Armstrong, comma, space, Sylvia. And now it looks better. All right, questions? Let's do one other thing here and use a different function. So, this works pretty good with the size of this spreadsheet. I can count here that there's 6 gifts I need to go by. Well, let's say this is really working well, and now there's 250 people that have donated. So I don't want to have to scroll through and manually count. I want to have a cell that tells me what's the total number of gifts that I need to buy. So I can put in a function here, and let's go back to my functions. And it's already here, but there are a lot of different count functions. Count if is the one I'm going to use. And again, it says counts the number of cells within a range that meet the given condition. So, okay, so that sounds like what I want. So I'm going to say, let's try that one. So what I want to do is, this one's a little different because I have to first show the range that I'm counting within. So I'm saying anywhere in this range of cells, count how many times the text string gift shows up. So I put double quote, gift, double quote. So that's what I'm asking it to do. Look within that range and count how many times it finds the text string GIFT. And it says 6, and 6 is correct. Everybody see how that one works? All right, so those are, and there's a ton more functions, but that's kind of shows you, you can do text-based functions, you can do logic-based functions, as well as the typical average, sum, max, minimum, count kind of things. All right. If there's no questions, we'll let me see. One other thing, we'll do one more here. I've got this down here. I forgot to put this one down here, but this is just showing again another variation on that one. So the guy in Texas needs to know how many $20, he's going to have to spend. How at some point he may decide he's going to stop doing that. So how many Texas matches are there? And so we could do another count if. And in this case, let's go back and grab our count if function again. And we're going to count in this range. And we're looking for within that range if it's equal to Texas. And we can see there's 5 Texas, so he needs to come up with $100. And we could actually tell him here how much he needs to do. In fact, there's 2 ways we could do that. We could say equals to how many gifts he needs to have times the number of the amount of each gift is 100. Or you could actually take this function and actually make it a complex function, make it times 20, and get the dollar amount that he's going to have to come up with as opposed to the number of matches he's going to have to make. That's no longer relevant. So you can take a function and turn it into part of a formula. So you now have a complex formula. Okay, let's move on. If there's no questions. In terms of working with data and with larger spreadsheets, One of the problems you have with larger spreadsheets like this is that everything looks good. And I'm going through my spreadsheet and I come over here and then I come over here. And the problem now is I don't know where I am. I don't know what's going on. In fact, let me go and explain the spreadsheet. I should have done that first. I'm gonna go back home. You probably know this trick, but Control Home takes you back to the upper left part of your spreadsheet from if you wandered off kind of far. So this is some sales data. This is the sales person's name, what region they work in, and then their total sales by month. That's what the spreadsheet is. But so I need to know, no matter where I am in this spreadsheet, what I'm working on. So in order to do that, we go up here to View, and we do something called freezing panes. And there's several ways to freeze pane. One of our problems was that we couldn't see this top row. So I can say freeze the top row. So now when I'm scrolling down, my top row stays there. So I can always tell which month I'm in. But it only partially solved my problem because when I come over here now, I still don't know which salesperson and which region I'm working in. Let me Control Home. And we can fix that. We'll go back into the freeze panes again. And first, let me position my cursor where I want to concatenate. So basically what I'm saying is I want to freeze this top row, but I also want to freeze these left two columns. So I basically want to frame around my cursor, lock this and lock this row, lock these columns.
Okay.
So let me go here to freeze panes. I'm going to unfreeze what I've done already, put it back like I started. And it kind of shows you in the pictures what it's going to do. You can freeze the top row. You can freeze just columns, or you can freeze rows and columns. So that's what I want to do. I want to freeze rows and columns. So now if I scroll down, the top row stays locked. If I scroll to the right, the left two columns stay locked. So now I can navigate anywhere within this spreadsheet without losing context of what person I'm working with and what month I'm working in. Questions about freezing panes? Okay. Let me get my notes cut up here. All right, so the next thing we probably gonna want to do is to sort this data. It's kind of all out of sort here. So one of the things probably is that each region may have a different manager. And so we want to sort this by region. So the way to sort the table is to click here in the upper left.
I'm not sure.
And that selects the entire table because I want to sort the entire table. And then I come up here to Data, Sort. One thing it asks is, does my data have headers? And mine does. This first row are column headers. This isn't information. These are headers. So I click here to say, don't sort this row in with the other stuff. I don't want it to stay on the top. And then I can ask, oh, what I want to sort by. And I wanted to sort by region. So let's sort by region. And so now it's sorted by region: East region, North region, South region, West region. So that helped, but I probably want to now also sort maybe alphabetically by salesperson within region. So I can do that. Let me click, select my whole table again, come back up to my sort. And I want to leave region because I want region, then I want salesperson within region. So I can just say add another level. And then add salesperson. And I can say whether I want it alphabetical or reverse alphabetical. I want it alphabetical. So now I've sorted salesperson within region. And just one more to kind of, what I may want to do instead of having it by sales, sorted by salesperson, I may want to have it by who had performed best in that month. So I want to sort it by sales for that month. In this case, I want the best salesman to be on top. So I'm going to sort it largest to smallest by the January 19 sales. And so now within each region, I've got the top person working down to the least performing person for each region. Questions on sorting? Everybody's awful quiet. Hopefully this is making sense. If you have questions or want to see something again, please unmute and let me know.
Very interesting.
Okay, great. All right, so let's show you a couple of other things we can do. We can use something called filters. And filters are right here beside sorting. So if I click filters, it puts this little icon for each column. And I can now filter the data. So let's say I'm responsible for the South and East regions. So I don't care about the other two regions. I only want to see my regions. So I can click here and I can deselect everything and just pick my two. Or I could go the other way, but I have the South and the East regions. So I click those two, say filter. It gets rid of the North and West and shows me just my two regions.
Would you repeat that, please?
Absolutely. And
Thank you.
also what it shows you here, you notice the icon changed. It now has a little, it's like a filter to let me know I've filtered based on this column. So let me click back in here and clear that filter. It puts it back to just the little down arrow, puts it back like it was. And we'll filter it differently. Let me say it that I'm responsible for the West region. And that's all I want to see. So I click here. And down here is what I want to filter by. These are the text filters. So I'm going to say unselect the whole list, or I could go in and take off the ones I don't want. I don't want to see East, North, and South. I just want to see West. You know, either way, I want to just have what I want to see checked and say, okay. And now I'm just seeing the West. And what it's doing, and you can, if you're familiar with hiding rows, you can tell what's happening. I've got row 1 and then it jumps to row 23. So those rows are still in the spreadsheet. They're just hidden. You can hide manually just by selecting rows and then doing a right click and hide. And it does the same thing. You can see I went from 24 to 28. And also you can see a little mini row there that says, you know, I've hidden some stuff. To bring these back, I can just click either side of what's hidden and unhide, and brings them back. Oops. In this case, I can go in here and clear the filter and bring everything back. One more scenario, just to kind of give ideas of some ways you might want to use this.
Just one second, I'm sorry. If you hit that control home, would that also take you back to the original table?
No, that would just move the cursor up here to the upper left part of the table. It wouldn't clear that out. So a couple more scenarios, just kind of some other reasons why you might want to do this. Maybe for whatever reason, I want to look at just a certain salespeople. I want to look at this person's data and this person's data and this person's data. So that's a quick way to just show me their information. I'm going to clear that one. And you can also, so far I've been filtering by text. I can do numerical filters as well. So maybe I'm looking for the top performers regardless of what region they're in. I want to find anybody that had sales of greater than 10,000. So I can click the filter here and do a number filter instead of a text filter. And lots of different options here. But what I was looking for is greater than 10,000. I can do and or logic to build this so you can get fairly complex in terms of what you're looking for. We'll keep it simple. So these are the salespeople that sold more than 10,000 for that month. One other one that's in there that's kind of nice, and then we'll move on if there's no questions, but you can just find the top 10, because I don't know where the cutoff is in terms of sales, but I want the top 10 regardless. And it shows me the top 10 salespeople. Now they're not sorted, but I can say to sort it largest to smallest, and now, oops. There, largest to smallest. So now I've sorted top salesperson on the bottom out of the top 10, lowest of the top 10 at the bottom. Very powerful little thing to use, filters, especially with, this isn't a huge spreadsheet, but envision this having 20,000 or 250 rows and 35 columns. It's really helpful in huge spreadsheets. Okay, no questions. Let's move on. Got more to show you. Charts. Let's look at charts. And this is another one you can get pretty sophisticated. We're going to keep it fairly simple here, but here's a scenario. This is a bookseller, and this is sales information for the first 5 months. These are the genres of books that they sell, and they just want to get a handle on what's going on with their business, and graphs are a great way to do that. So I select what I want to graph, come up here to insert, and then here's the different types of chart that I can do. So you can see, you can hover over which one you're looking for. So these are bar charts, line graphs, pie charts. Let's start with a bar chart. And I'm going to click the down arrow here beside the bar charts. And it'll give me my options: a 2D column, 3D column, 2D bar horizontally, 3D bar horizontally. And there's more options down here if you don't like any of those. If you actually click on them, if you look down at the bottom, it starts to build them so you can see what it looks like before you select it. Let's go with just a 3D clustered columns. And there's my chart. So I've got January, February, March, and April, different bars for each one of the genres, so I can tell which genre is doing best. Mysteries was best in January. Romance was better for the rest other 4 months. It does what charts are meant to do, give you a quick overview of what sales look like. You can move this around. I can put that over here underneath. You can give it a title. Whatever you want the title to be. Questions so far? Kind of see how that works. Can
you show me how you made the title again?
Yeah, just click on it, and it opens it up for editing, and then you can just edit it.
I have to find the text box and make it.
Yeah. So where this is, I just click here, and you see the box is highlighted now. And I'll do another table, so you can see it from scratch, because I'm gonna do a different one. Let's do another one, and let's do a line chart. So let me pick what I want again, come back to insert, come over here, but this time I want to do a line. I'll use the little drop down arrow. And these are my different options. Let's go with this one, line with markers. I drag this over here out of the way so it's not blocking the first one. And see where it says chart title? I'm just going to come up here and click where it says chart title.
Yeah.
And then delete the word chart title and put my my title in there again.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Sure. Now, there are some things you can do. I'm gonna go back to this one. It has this little plus sign, and these are different elements I can add or remove. And with these types of graphs, sometimes it's nice to put the data in there. So if I click on this data table, it actually puts my data table down here as part of it. And I can make this a little bigger maybe so you can see it better. So that way I see all the data points as well as the chart itself. If I look at that and decide I don't like it, I can just take the table out, put it back like it was. So, you can change colors, lots of other things you can do with it. You want to get a little more sophisticated. For today, we're going to keep it fairly simple. Questions? Anything else that's going to show you around that? Those are the main things. Of course, there's lots of other different types of charts up here, depending on your data. Some of them make sense, some of them don't. Like a pie chart doesn't make much sense with this type of data. What would make more sense if I wanted a pie chart would maybe be to look at just 1 month. So let's say I just want to see January. So I can pick just January, come up here to insert, come down here to pie charts, do a nice little 3D pie chart. And so here's my pie chart. Let's drag it down. Drag it down here out of the way. So I can see classics, mystery, romance, sci-fi, young adult in a pie chart for 1 month. You can't compare trends across months with a pie chart. It's a static month kind of a graph, but you can do that. In this case, it actually put the right month in the chart title. The fact that I was using January, it tells me it's January. Let's talk about printing is the last thing I think I was going to cover. Oh, there is one other thing I can show you, I think. So we've been charting sales by month. If you want to do it the other way around, you can have month by genre instead of genre by month. So that's how you can flip it around. Let's do that one as another version. So instead of having January, February, March across the bottom, it's got the genres, and then the sales are the bar charts. So way you can change that is come up here, and there's several ways to do this. The way that I used to do it is come up, go to recommended charts, which is not a bad place to go anyway, because it tells you what type of data you can do. But if I go to all charts, it then gives me the option of switching between the two. All right, so let's talk about printing. So we got a couple, we're about to run out of time, but that's good. Not much left to show about printing. So let's, so to go to printing, we go to File and Print. And the default is it's going to show you the active sheet. So we were on this charting sheet and it's got the whole thing. I've kind of chopped off part of it, but you may not want to have the entire, all of this stuff. Maybe I just want this chart. That's the one that I think shows the information best. What I can do is I can click on what I want to print. So I just click on this one chart. Now, if I go back to File, Print, it's just going to print that one chart, not the entire page. So that's one of the things about printing spreadsheets. You can print the entire active sheet. You can print just a segment of that sheet. So maybe I just want to print this table. Again, I can select what I want to print and it'll print, oops. Print selection. So I have to click here to say, just print the selection. It normally defaults to the whole sheet. I don't want to print the whole sheet. I want to print just what I selected. And now it's showing me just what I selected on that sheet. Or I could print the entire workbook, which is going to be 11 pages. So you don't do that very often, but I have done that on occasions where I've got a spreadsheet there. I want to print all the sheets. So instead of having to go one at a time and print, if you select print entire workbook, it'll print the entire workbook.
I've tried to do that several times, but then it ends up just being a whole bunch of pages like this with just part of the page on it. Is there any way to avoid that?
Yeah, let's go look at that. That's another problem. Let's switch back to this larger table and do a file print. And this is going to be kind of hard to see. And we want to go back to just the active sheet. And what it defaulted to is that it scaled it to fit the entire sheet on one page, which works, but unless you got a magnifying glass, you couldn't read it. Let's put this back to no scaling. And then this is probably what you've got. It's got 3 pages, but it just kind of, we got the same problem we had when we were looking at it. I've now lost my salesperson and my region. So I've got numbers here, but I don't know what I'm looking at. But you can do the same thing we did with the freeze panes, basically, for your printing. Let's go back to the spreadsheet. And actually, it is still filtered. So let's take this filter off first, because it makes the problem a little even worse. We'll go back to File, Print. This is a couple of things we can do. So now there's 6 pages. That's even a bigger problem. One of the problems I can fix pretty easily, though, because 3 of those pages just have 2 rows in them. So what I can do is I can come under scaling and say fit all rows on one page. And it'll rescale it now. So I've got 3 pages, but I've got all the rows fit. So that's not quite as bad. But I still can't see, and I know this is hard to see, but this is the salesperson's name, and here's the region, and then here's all the data. When I go to the second table, all I've got is data. I don't have the salesperson and the region. So I've fixed my row overrun. Let's go fix this. So let's go back. And what I have to do is go to page layout. And print titles. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the freeze panes. I'm going to say I want to repeat certain columns at the left. So I click here and I tell it which columns I want to basically freeze, keep reprinting. And it's those first 2 columns, column A and column B. And if I say okay, and it's actually going to, let's go back and look at it. So now I've got my salesperson and region. I've still got my salesperson and region. I've still got my salesperson and region. So now for all 3 pages, I've got my column headers, I've got my row headers, and I can see all the data. Does that make sense, Mary?
Yes, that's much better.
Yeah, that's a little tricky, but yeah, that will do that for you. Okay. Ooh, and I think that was the last thing I was going to show you, and we are out of time. Yep, that was the last thing I was going to show you. So let me go back to my slides, and we'll go to the closing. Okay. So I do want to thank you for attending the class. Hopefully you learned some Excel tips and tricks you didn't know before that'll make life easier for you. And there's a couple of related classes. I mentioned there's an Excel Basics class, which is typically the precursor for this one. But if you haven't taken that class, you may want to still consider that one. And there's a OneDrive Basics, which talks about OneDrive, which is the cloud drive that Excel uses to store all the files. So all these Excel sheets are stored in OneDrive. So if you're not familiar with OneDrive, you may want to take that class as well. So in closing, especially anyone that this is their first class, I want to let you know what's going to happen after class. So after class, you will get an email, and there's several sections in that email. There's some class notes, and as part of those class notes, there'll be links to some websites with information. Some of it is repeated the information we covered today that you can review. Some of it is related information we didn't cover in class. So if you want to extend beyond the class and do some independent research, there'll be some sources for that as well. There'll be links to 3 other classes. If you're interested in one of these classes, this is just a shortcut to the registration page. Okay, there's a question came through about whether the same thing works in Sheets. We do. Sheets is Google's version of Excel, Google Sheets, and they're very similar. And the short answer is, I would say at least 90% of what we did today, you can do in Sheets, and it works pretty much the same way, slightly different, but very similar. When we get into advanced Excel, then you start getting some functions and features that you can't do in Google Sheets, because Excel's been around a long time, a lot longer than Google Sheets. So they've had time to build in some functions and features that Google Sheets doesn't have. But yep, good question. The next part of the email you get, there's a link to give feedback. Give feedback opens the feedback form, really quick feedback form, basically 2 questions. Rate the session 1 to 5 stars, rate the guide 1 to 5 stars. A place to put comments. If you have comments, comments aren't required, but they're greatly appreciated. And down here's a general feedback section. And this is where you can put things like classes you'd like us to offer that we don't. So for instance, we don't have an Excel advanced class, but if enough people want to go to the next level, we can get into pivot tables and other more advanced features of Excel. And I did want to also mention that hopefully you are enjoying Get Set Up and sharing it with other people. But if you want to get more involved with Get Set Up, hopefully you found our interest groups and social groups. And what we've done now is that those groups are typically hosted by a learner as opposed to someone from Get Set Up. So if you're interested in hosting an interest group, you could start an Excel interest group and swap ideas and information as part of an interest group. But if you'd like to start an interest group, just let us know. help@getsetup.io, that same email I gave you at the top of the class, is how you would send that information. You could also use this email address to send us ideas for additional classes that you'd like to see. So you can do that through the feedback form or just send an email. So if you think about it after you've already sent the feedback form, at any point you can send us an email with a new class you'd like to see us offer. And then the last link is View Schedule, which takes you back to our website where you can sign up for additional classes. And I know our website has changed fairly dramatically recently. Does anybody have any questions or problems with the website that I could help you with? Or it's been a couple of weeks now. I think most people are starting to figure it out. Everybody's okay?
Got it. Yeah.
Okay, so we are right at the hour mark. So I do want to thank you so much for attending. I hope you enjoyed the class as much as I did, and hope to see you in another class really soon. Thanks so
Thank
much
you,
for
Wade.
attending.
Thank
Have
you,
a
Wade.
great
I
afternoon.
have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ed.
When does the beginners class begin?
Okay, good question. Let me show you how to find that real quick. Let me share my screen back.
Okay.
Because so I still have this up here. Easiest way to find a class is just to come up here in the search and type Excel. And here's the Excel Basics class.
Yes.
So I click there and it is going to be tomorrow, March 26th at 11 Eastern. And then again, March 30th at 10 a.m. Eastern.
All
You
right.
said the Google Sheets are similar to this, to Excel?
It is. They are. It's in fact very similar. And we do have a Google Sheets class.
Basic.
Google Sheets Basics. We don't have an intermediate. So but it's, if you can do Excel, Google Sheets is very simple. There are some differences and we go over the differences. In fact, the class assumes you know Excel and you're interested in finding out how Sheets is different from Excel. So that's another class. It's not on the schedule right now, but it'll be back on the schedule. So if you click anytime you see notify me, you can click that. And what'll happen is you'll get an email the next time it's up to schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Learned
Have
a
a great
lot.
day. Mhm. Bye now.
Bye-bye.